The Cosmos had some of the best performing altcoins in 2023, and I'm expecting going into this year, 2024, we're going to see the Cosmos continue its rally to what is setting up to be a massive opportunity for the Cosmos ecosystem project and altcoins. We're going to dive into 4 of my favorite Cosmos altcoin gems that I'm betting could 10x or more in the bull run, and some of them you may have never heard of. What's up YouTube, welcome back. I'm Crypto with Nick, and I'm always focusing on bringing you the latest crypto research, altcoin gems, and airdrops. So do me a favor, check the links below, come join the completely free community Discord, and be sure to hit that like button and subscribe. It truly means the world to me. But let's get into today's video of exploring the Cosmos. We should first talk about what is Cosmos and really what makes it so fundamentally different than if you were to compare it to other L1 blockchains or Ethereum and its layer 2 scaling solutions. Cosmos is built on this foundation and technology called IBC, the Inter-Blockchain Communication Protocol. And what this really allows is for Cosmos to be kind of this massive internet of blockchains by allowing people to move both assets and data very seamlessly throughout its ecosystem. And if you're curious how IBC works, you can take a look at this diagram, follow its flow to get a high level understanding. But what Cosmos has always focused on is interoperability, and this is something that other blockchains severely lack. There's so many projects in the Cosmos, and of course I'm on a mission to research them all, but there's over 249 apps and services, so it could take me a little bit. But over $66 billion is locked up within this ecosystem. You can consider other layer 1 blockchains really operating as their own individual islands, each with their own set of governance and rules. And of course, there is the concept of bridges to move assets from one ecosystem to another, something you've probably used before. But that's fundamentally different than how IBC works, because IBC really isn't just about moving assets. It's a whole messaging protocol that allows you to move much more. And really what you can think of it as, rather than being the user having to move assets, instead what you can do is bring the application to the user. And because the bridging technology is often not built natively into the stack, because these layer 1s did not really consider what it would take to be interoperable with other ecosystems, what you end up with is a bunch of bridges that spin up to serve as these stopgap solutions, and many of them really aren't all that secure. If we just take a look at some of the biggest hacks in crypto, we can point to the Ronin network, 624 million, the BNB bridge, 586 million, the Wormhole bridge, 326 million, and you can go ahead, there's just so many more. And I'm not trying to scare anyone because I use bridges every day to move money between all these different layer 1 ecosystems, but Cosmos IBC natively solves this. And if we just take a second to visualize the Cosmos, we can just see really how many apps and projects there are. And if we were to click on something like Osmosis, which is a decentralized exchange and really aims to be the main liquidity hub in all of Cosmos, you can just see how everything is connected to it. And again, this is all through IBC. One of the most popular projects in the Cosmos right now definitely has to be Celestia. Trading at about $2.3 billion, this token launched late October around $2.20 and has skyrocketed. Literally, this chart is up only for the last few months and sitting around $15. If you aren't familiar, Celestia did a Genesis airdrop to over 600,000 addresses back in October. And Celestia timed this perfectly, because now what you have is 600,000 fanatic fans that have watched this token price go from just $2 to over $15 over the past few months. Celestia is this idea of a modular blockchain, and this is much different than a traditional layer 1 blockchain, right? This is the idea of being able to look at a technology stack, being able to separate out each of the components, and you could almost think of it as a building Legos together. The best way to understand the value that Celestia is bringing is to take a look at existing monolithic architecture, much like Solana or Ethereum before its rollups. In monolithic blockchains, everyone has to be governed by the same set of standards across execution, consensus, settlement, and even though we might go ahead and iterate and make improvements on this architecture, you're still limited to what is possible within your monolithic stack. And now if we look at Celestia on the right here, we can start to look at it as building blocks or Legos as we separate out its different modular components. And what we can really start to do is empower different project teams and developers, making sure that they're putting together a technology stack that is really going to help amplify their business use case. And this means picking any execution layer, whether that's the Ethereum virtual machine, the Solana virtual machine, or the Cosmos SDK, and really combining this with whatever settlement layer you choose. And because Celsius is only handling consensus and data availability, it takes this very light and thin layer approach, meaning that you can run a full node, of course, on a big server, but you can also run these concepts of a light mode on something very small, like maybe even your iPhone. In monolithic blockchains, they usually have to download all the data to make sure that's available, but we can see that Celestia also has this concept of data availability sampling. Instead of downloading all that data, Celestia is able to use their idea of these light nodes and able to download just a small amount of data, making it incredibly more efficient, and is truly the only blockchain to do this right now. If I were to show you a picture bringing it all together, we can see here Celestia is the foundational layer, right? You can be an EVM, rollup, Cosmos SDK, JavaScript, the Move programming language, right? And you can see that you can basically build any stack that you desire. Celestia raised over $55 million to go ahead and build out this modular blockchain. And this is backed by some of the top VCs like Jump Crypto, Delphi, Bain Capital, Polychain, and there's just so many more here. Another reason why I became incredibly bullish on TIA from the beginning was the tokenomics. We can see here that only a small amount of the tokenomics are unlocked, only about 14 to 15%, but we can see there's virtually zero inflation for the first year. There is going to be a significant amount of inflation from year 1 to 2, but do not underestimate how much a crypto can pump between now and October, which is when these would start to unlock. Because of all the benefits Celestia is able to offer, I mean, this ecosystem is absolutely massive, right? We have settlement layers coming up like Barachain, Neutron, Dimension. We also have projects like Hyperlane and even Manta Network, which is an up-and-coming, very promising layer 2. But you can just see there's a ton going on here. You are able to stake your Celestia. Right now, there's about an 8% inflation, but if you're staking your TIA, you're going to get about 16% APR paid back out in additional TIA tokens. You'll want to be staking your TIA tokens because there is a ton of airdrops being set. I recorded an entire video that goes over it, where I talk about how projects like Dimension just did a massive airdrop for TIA stakers. The price targets for Celestia in the bull run will be about 10x from here. I see it going well over $100, which would put it around a $15 billion market cap. This chart has been aggressively up, and I'm really not sure we're going to get a ton of big dips on it. Even when we had this massive dip down to $9, you can see it immediately retraced. And when we see a dip get eaten this aggressively, to me, this is kind of a shift of as we enter the bull run, the risk profile of traders is starting to greatly change, meaning that we're going to see many coins rally sustain longer than we anticipate, and you're going to see dips being aggressively bought. Next, we're looking at Injective, which is really aiming to be the blockchain that is home to finance. Injective is trading around $40 after you can see this monster rally in 2023 with a market cap of around $3.2 billion. And to be the blockchain for finance, you need to be really fast, and Injective is probably the fastest blockchain we've seen at over 25,000 transactions per second. But that's not the most important thing. What is its instant finality, which is critical when it comes to a DeFi and other financial tools. Because Injective uses CosmWasm smart contracts, they're really looking to empower the next era of DeFi, which is going to be in lending markets, prediction markets, futures, order books, and really just anything else. Injective was created in 2018 by these two gigabrains. Here we have Eric Chen and Albert Chan, and they have a background in venture and software engineering, and it's actually been incubated by Binance Labs. We take a look here at Injective's price action. It had a run definitely in 2021, but of course, like many cryptocurrencies, fell by a massive amount to the depths of the bear. But I want you to look at when they really started to pick up and turn around, and it was really this uptick here early January. And the reason why the token price really started to take off in early January, and if you notice the date of this article, January 25th, and this is when they announced their $150 million ecosystem fund to really accelerate the adoption and attract developers and teams to come build on Injective, and this was backed by both Jump Capital and Patera venture capital firms. Another unique value for injective is, if you remember, we were talking earlier in this video about Cosmos IBC and the challenges that other layer 1 blockchains face. And that value is that injective is enabling cross-chain interoperability not only in the Cosmos, but also to Ethereum. And they're also looking to add on other chains such as Solana, Polkadot, and many others. And what we would have in an ideal world is that basically any token launched on injective would be natively exposed to all these different ecosystems, similar to that of Cosmos IBC. Another great reason for Injective's price action really has been its tokenomics schedule. If you can see here today, almost all tokens are in circulation. So what we saw in the previous bull run is likely venture capital and insiders, right, receiving their vested tokens and dumping them on the market, really suppressing the price. Now that we've cleared all those hurdles, things are looking very optimistic, and we do not have to really worry about any more large unlocks from insiders. You can, of course, stake your injective with inflation about 10%, but by choosing to stake your injective, you're going to receive about 16% APR, which will, of course, cover that and more. Another thing that has really helped their tokenomics and price action is it seems injective take a page out of Ethereum's playbook on ultrasound money. If you aren't familiar, Ethereum burns its fees. So Injective is doing something very similar, taking about 60% of all fees and burning it, which is obviously going to help decrease the circulating supply and decrease selling pressure. And if you're curious more about how the burn function works, you can kind of dive into the documentation where you can see that each week an auction is held to allow the community members to use Injective to bid for the basket of trading fees collected by Injective that week. Biggest thing that I'm going to be tracking in 2024 on Injective is how the ecosystem continues to develop. Right now, there's only about $24 million locked up across the Injective ecosystem. If we scroll down here, we can see the different projects that are built on top of it today, and really most of the TVL comes from a single project known as Helix, which accounts for about 12 million TVL. And if we take a look at what Helix is, we can see that it's essentially a decentralized exchange as well as a perpetual market. The next project we're going to focus on here is Say, which has been gaining a ton of traction lately. Say sits at about a $1.5 billion market cap right now at about 65 cents. We can see here it launched back in August at about 19 cents, and it really just did nothing for quite a few months. And we can see here back in around early November, this thing first started to really take off and has since exploded into the new year. Say is trying to be this general purpose layer 1 blockchain, really focusing on trading digital assets. And it really uses this unique consensus mechanism called twin turbo consensus. If you're familiar with the blockchain trilemma, all blockchains and ecosystems face this problem, which is they struggle to find a balance between decentralization, performance, and security. And so what Say is really trying to find is that middle ground between performance and decentralization. We can see here that Say is incredibly fast, around 20,000 transactions per second, and basically near instant finality. It also uses this concept of parallel processing, where when you compare it to Ethereum, uses more of linear or sequential processing. To understand what sequential versus parallel processing really means is, imagine Say built a massive interstate highway with 8 lanes, whereas Ethereum is still traveling down that single old country road. We can see back in April that Say raised about $30 million, bringing its valuation to about $800 million. And you have to remember, Say is really only trading just recently after its big run at about $1.5 billion, so only 2x times investors. And we can also see back in April that Foresight Ventures went ahead and funded a massive $120 million ecosystem fund. Again, this is to attract Web3 growth and developers to come build on the Say ecosystem. And Say's ecosystem is definitely still early on in developing, but you can see we have quite a bit of landscape here covering some of the top DeFi projects like Astroport and Levana. We also have quite a few gaming projects, marketplaces, and even RWAs. And the other thing that's probably really exciting about Say is Say V2, which is really going to be the first parallel processing EVM, which is bringing a ton of attention and hype to this project. The only other project that I know of that is attempting to do parallel processing as an EVM is Monad, but I don't see Monad even launching in 2024. And so this means that we can go ahead and spend our focus and time really looking and exploring the Say ecosystem. We can see that in Say V2, it's changing the way that the execution layer works to support what they call optimistic parallelization and optimized state storage. This is also going to create a new components to support EVM smart contracts, which of course is going to allow that massive Ethereum Solidity community to easily deploy applications and new products on Say. And I think Save being able to do this parallel processing as an EVM is just really going to unlock a ton of new use cases, really particularly trading digital assets, which is where their focus is. We talked about the blockchain trilemma, but what Say is targeting is the exchange trilemma, which is really a balance between decentralization, scalability, and most importantly, capital efficiency. So Say is trying to bridge the gap here by offering the fastest finality, the fastest performance, parallel processing, and really, like I said, take advantage of the gaps in the current offerings that we have today. You can see that they set their vision out to be the super highway for trading activity, whether that's going to be the NASDAQ, Amazon, Steam, and so many more. Say's tokenomics overall look pretty solid. Here, this purple blob is going to be for the ecosystem reserve, so not as big of a concern. And we can see that a lot of the unlocks start to happen later in 2025 with the private sales investors, but they do start getting tokens as early as late 2024, so just something to keep in mind. If you're noticing a trend here, a lot of the Cosmos ecosystem charts look very much the same with this explosive move to the upside. So I would have to probably look to wait for dips, find areas of opportunity, but I do think that Say will continue to run in 2024. Neutron is easily one of the most exciting projects that I've researched lately. And what it's aiming to be is the smart contract layer for the Cosmos Hub, where the Cosmos Hub will take care of staking and Neutron is what will actually deploy the applications. Neutron right now is trading at $1.45 or about 400 million market cap. You can see here, it looks like the token originally launched back in June at around just 26 cents. This was also an airdrop to certain Cosmos holders. And you can see the token price didn't really do too much, but as we've seen this shift of new money flow into the Cosmos and people are starting to discover the real value add of some of these projects like Neutron, it of course has skyrocketed over the last few weeks and months. So why is Neutron though actually needed? Well, you have to take a step back and think about the perspective of a developer or a team, right? Deploying and setting up your own blockchain is incredibly resource intensive, time consuming, costly, requires a certain amount of technical skills, and at the end of the day, now you are responsible for the security of that ecosystem. You can really almost think of Neutron as the successor to the Atom token. The Atom token historically, its price action has been horrific because there's never really been any true value accrual to it. So you can kind of look at Neutron as really the new age of where the Cosmos ecosystem, in my opinion, is really trying to shift towards. Neutron is going to be the first consumer chain to launch on the Cosmos Hub interchain security. And we can see here that Neutron also was required to go through governance to launch Neutron on replicated security, which passed with a massive 99% yes, bringing it into the Atom economic zone. What this means is that Atom in the Cosmos Hub is going to secure the Neutron chain, and in return, it's going to receive 25% of transaction fees, 25% of MEV, and 7% of the Neutron supply as an initial drop. And to really better understand the Atom economic zone portion, remember I discussed how the Atom token really struggled with value accrual. So this is really this idea of trying to change that narrative. And you can see here an Atom aligned ecosystem of chains and apps that bring direct value to the Cosmos Hub. And of course, we talked about Neutron being the first consumer chain, right? So the primary driver of the Atom economic zone is these new chains using interchain security. And that means consumer chains are going to be responsible for, building, testing, and auditing their chain. We can see here different governance proposals. Right now, we can highlight, of course, Neutron. There's also Stride, as well as some other ones here below it. And interchain security really is that idea and mechanisms that I talked about, where it allows you to take advantage of the Cosmos Hub security and validator set to go ahead and secure your own chain. And another big thing is that Lido wants to bring wrap staked ETH to the interchain community, and it will do this through its partnership with Neutron. We can, of course, take a quick look at Neutron's tokenomic breakdown: 54% DAO, 23% founders. We have community at 12% and early backers at 11%. And good news, as always, most of these early backers and venture capital we can see here are locked up for at least 1 year, meaning we don't have to worry about any of that supply getting dumped onto the market. And of course, they'll continue to linearly vest over many years after that. Because Neutron is being secured by interchain security, there's actually no option for you to stake your Neutron, much like many other Cosmos projects. And another thing that's really exciting about Neutron is because it has so much support from the Cosmos community, is we can see here basically every large scale project in the Cosmos is looking to deploy on Neutron, including Astroport, Squid Radar, Concrats, Skip Protocol, Apollo DAO, right? You can just see here, there's an entire list that is geared up and ready to go to, of course, support the success of Neutron. To just wrap this up, I'm going to quickly touch on all 4 of them very quickly and just how I would rank them going into 2024. So my number 1 pick is definitely going to be Celestia or TIA, because I think it's bringing at least the biggest value proposition that we've seen in quite some time. Next, I really like Neutron. I love that the idea that the Cosmos team is really trying to figure out like how do they bring value to the Cosmos hubs, and I'm really excited for them to kind of pivot in this direction and really excited to see where things end up here. Third project I'll probably be looking at is Say. It's definitely early on, but it's really the only bet on parallelized EVM processing. So I'll definitely be tracking how this ecosystem continues to develop. Finally, fourth is I'm really going to be tracking Injective here. I really love that it's targeting finance as its dedicated use case, as well as its value prop of one, being able to connect not only all the IBC ecosystems, but everything else we talked about, like maybe Solana, Avalanche, Polkadot. And on top of that, they have some of the best tokenomics with almost the entire supply circulating at this point. If I had to pick a bonus one for you, it's going to be Kujira. This is definitely my number 5 pick, but I was just too worried about making this video too long. But this is another great project. The quick TLDR is that this team was building on Terra. Of course, that collapsed, and they went ahead and pivoted and have really built out an entire suite of DeFi products. The tokenomics are very similar to Injective. All of them are circulating, as well as they've been gaining a ton of traction. So if you're looking for another project to research in your free time, definitely pick up Kujira, and I've talked about it some more in my other videos, like farming Cosmos airdrops. That wraps up, but before you head out, do me a huge favor. If you're considering a new project that you'd love for me to research and give my thoughts on, be sure to comment below. I'm always looking for new things to research. And again, check the links below. Come join completely free community Discord. Be sure to hit that like button, subscribe. It really does help. But cheers, catch you in the next one.